Hello.
Hello. For those of you who just got on, I'm gonna start talking at 6:03. I figured I'd give everyone a couple minutes to make sure I don't miss anyone.
I'm glad this link worked. The one for the math class didn't work.
Oh no, the math one didn't work?
Well, we had to type it in. Because the link, I guess she wasn't brought over to Canvas or something. You had to move her stuff over, and the link didn't work.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, hopefully that gets fixed because that'll be hard with math. Sometimes you can't always type your questions.
I don't know, I'm new to all of this, so.
That's all right. At least with this, I don't know how many of you have been at Jackson College before, but this is the first year we're utilizing Canvas as like the platform for everything instead of JetNet. So it's gonna be new for everyone. So that's a benefit if it's your first time being here. Everyone's new. But okay, 6:03, and I see there's a message in the chat. So no, totally fine if you don't have a working mic. I am pretty laid back on things. So if you like to just sit back and not talk at all throughout these meetings, that's fine. If you want to have your camera on or don't, it doesn't matter to me. Whatever works for you works for me. But yeah, so I guess we'll get started. I'll probably start by introducing myself, and we can go around and do introductions if you guys are okay with that. I know everyone hates that, but it's kind of nice to get a sense of, I like to at least know where everyone's doing in terms of like what program they're in. And it's kind of nice to know, especially with a lot of this being online, it's nice to know other people in the same program as you. So yeah, I guess, so my name's Summer. You can definitely just call me Summer. I am an engineer for the state of Michigan. So this is my second job and just my part-time job. So I work full-time, 40 hours a week in the drinking water division. So I deal with all surface water systems on the west side of Michigan. Jackson is actually included in that. And yeah, so a little bit about me. I'm an environmental engineer. So that is a little different than electrical courses and all of this, but I do have an engineering background. So I got both my bachelor's and master's from MSU in environmental engineering, and I currently still live in Lansing. So I've actually never been to Jackson College, but I've taught here now for a little over a year and a half, and I've loved it. So I love the electrical courses, and yeah, I think it'll be a good semester, but I guess kind of how these courses are structured is, so every week, if you haven't realized already, this course, ELT 120, has both a math and electrical component. So I am the instructor on the electrical side. Kim Simpson is the instructor on the math side. So you have math Zoom meetings similar to this once a week, every Tuesday. I believe there's 6 to 7, but correct me if I'm wrong. And then you'll have the Thursday meetings with me, 6 to 7, every Thursday. So yeah, and basically during these times, I primarily will first start it off by, if anyone has any questions or concerns, we will hit that first. And then I normally give a presentation, and I'll just kind of go over the basics of the content that you're supposed to learn for that week. So and I'll go through the course and everything and explain that. But yeah, so that's kind of how this course is structured. As far as attendance goes, I recognize that a lot of you work full-time and are also, students part-time, which is busy. So I totally understand if you can't attend these. They're at this time of day because I work till 5, but for those of you who work second shift or third, no, it'd be second shift, but or third shift, you can watch the recordings. So I record these, and I don't have any office hours, I guess, scheduled But I am more than happy to schedule something one-on-one if there's ever a time where you're completely stuck on the material or just want extra help or just want to, voice your concerns independently. I'm more than happy to schedule a meeting with you and kind of walk through it that way. So I guess with that, I know being online is not everyone's favorite in the world. It can definitely make courses difficult to learn, especially STEM courses, right? So yeah, whatever I can do to help you succeed in the next 7 weeks. And yeah, hopefully it'll be a good semester. Hopefully it'll go smoothly with Canvas. Today I'll probably go through, I have a short presentation on the week 1 content. If you've already taken the quiz and everything for that, you can log off early. You don't have to stay on when I go over that. But I'll first start by going over the syllabus quickly. And also just kind of navigating Canvas and showing you how that works, showing you what counts towards your grade, because I know that is a important factor for a lot of you. But yeah, I guess so. Maybe we'll just start. I'll maybe call your names on the right there. If you just want to maybe say, I don't know, you can say whatever you want. It's just your name, what you do, maybe what program you're in. This is important too. I didn't mention this. This is really important. So every week I have to submit attendance. And basically the way I do that is if you attend these meetings, you automatically get attendance. So for all of you on today, you got your attendance, so don't have to worry about it. If you don't attend these meetings, you have to just send me an email. If you can't attend these, and that's totally fine. But I just don't want to accidentally drop anyone. Attendance isn't counted towards your grades. So if you don't want to attend these, that's okay. These are mandatory, except the first one I wanted to be mandatory because there's just a lot of information we cover. I want to make sure everyone's on the same page. But after this, these weekly meetings won't be mandatory. But just send me an email each week. Just let me know you're not going to be there and that you're still enrolled in the course. Just because I have to, due to like everyone's like financial reasons, if someone's inactive for over 2 weeks, I have to drop them. That's just like university policy. So just be mindful of that. I don't want to accidentally drop someone who's taking the course. But yeah, so with that, I'm going to just go around the room, and that sounds good. You guys, you can pass too if you don't want to talk. I won't be offended. But okay, so Dan, I see there's a Dan on. Oh, hi Dan.
Hi, I'm Dan. I've been in manufacturing for about 20 years now. I've taken apprenticeship programs. I didn't end up getting my journeyman's card because the program that I was going through decided to stop taking things for credit, for college credit. So I didn't finish. Last year, I got interested in the Reconnect program. I figured all the classes that I took, I might as well use for college credit, and JCC took it. So here I am, and I'm gonna do the electrical portion and get the manufacturing degree at the same time.
For sure. Well, welcome. All right.
My name's Ian, and I'm the same as Dan. I've been well, except for I did not go through any other apprenticeships, but I've worked in manufacturing for 30 years. I started out as like a machine operator, and I'm currently doing like machine repair type work where I if someone needs a machine repaired or something in the shop, I will go and see what I can do. And I decided to take this course and I want to go for like an applied science type degree where I can use it a lot of different ways, but I want the certificate so I can actually fix machinery. Because right now is like what I see is a lot of the machines are, they have the PLCs in them, and I kind of like have to just stop right there. I'm like done. I can't fix your machine anymore because I have no idea what I'm doing. I can look at it and see what it's doing, but I don't know how to change it. So I'm just gonna learn as much as I can, and hopefully I know it will help me test things and do different things with the machines to fix them. But you know, as far as the mechanical part of it, I can do that all day with my eyes blindfolded, but you know, I need this electrical background too. And I think it would just boost my income as well. So
For sure. Well, welcome. Yeah, I will say working in the water industry, PLCs are everywhere there, and yeah, it's definitely a need, that type of job, and not a lot of people can do it, and that's why it's hard. So it's welcome.
thank you.
Victor?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I've worked manufacturing for, well, about 30 years. I took a couple classes for machine repair, and I work in a union shop, and they're talking about doing an apprenticeship program. They're going through negotiations, and I figured I'd get a head start, and I figured electricians make the most money, so I'm gonna try and get that through. And it's been a while since I've been in school, so I'm having a hard time with it all. I mean,
I hear you.
when I signed up, it was, when I met the lady there, I forget her name, she said 2 classes, you should be good. And it's like, when I took the machine repair classes, it was in class, we had a teacher, we had paper. This is all computer, and I'm like, I'm not completely lost. I got kids and they're helping, but it's just a lot. I had the Zoom meeting with Al Rosner at 5:30, and I told him, hey, I got a 6 o'clock meeting. I thought it was you, and I waited for about 15 minutes. You never showed up.
Oh, no.
And I just heard you say Kim was Tuesday. I knew there was a 6 o'clock meeting, so I hope, I knew the first meeting was kind of mandatory, and I just missed it because I thought it was the meeting with you. So,
Oh, no.
yeah.
Well, I'm
now
saying,
that you said it, I'm gonna email her, or try to let her know that it wasn't intentional. I was waiting on you. I just got things. So, but yeah, this is where I'm at. Just like Ian said, is just trying to better my life, and hopefully I can get through this.
good for you. And yeah, I know this first week is challenging, and it's yeah, it was kind of confusing with having both the math and electrical side of things. But yes, electrical is on Thursday, and mine's the one that's mandatory. So that Tuesday one, only this week's mandatory. That Tuesday one, I don't ever think she even said it was mandatory. So
No,
you're
she didn't.
fine. You don't have to worry about it. If you miss that math one, it's totally fine. The only reason this Thursday week 1 is mandatory is just because for attendance reasons, I want to make sure that I know everyone's actually in this class is still on my roster, and also just to make sure, from here on out, everyone's on the same page. And I'll spend a lot of time like going over Canvas and exactly what the heck is going on in Canvas, because I know it's confusing.
Now let me interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you. Now, I know it's a weekly thing, and like you said, you're going to start grading. How do we know, like, how would I know if I'm falling behind? Like I said, I got 2 courses, everything's on the computer. You open 2 screens, you got a book. I mean, I work full time. I do work a lot of overtime. So I've been trying to do a lot of things on my phone at work, but obviously I'm at work, so it's like, I mean, I don't know. I thought about calling the college back and see maybe getting in class. I know that they had asked me, you want online or in class? And I figured online was going to work best for me. I mean, it's the first week. I'm still trying to get the hang of it. I'm sure in a couple weeks I'll be up to date, or, but I don't know. It's like, how do you grade? I mean, if the first week you don't have your chapter review done, I mean, is it automatically, a 0? I mean, how does this really work?
Yeah. So, I'll go over it in more detail, especially later on once I'll share my screen so you can see what I'm seeing. And that might make it easier. But in terms of grading and due dates, I do not set due dates. So for the exact reason you just brought up, I think that people work full time. Some of you have kids and lives, and everything. And I recognize that for, 1 week, you might be totally behind in work and not be able to do something and miss this course. So because of that, you will not get penalized at all throughout the semester if you, like, there's no late grades. So you don't have to worry about that. As long as everything is due by the end of this course, which, in 7 weeks, and I'll send you reminders for when everything has to be done. As long as everything's done at that point, you will get the grade. And it'll show you, I'll show in Canvas how your grade works and everything and how you can determine, your status for how you're doing. But yeah, after the course ends, just anything not finished becomes a 0. But
Okay.
yeah, so that's how that works. So hopefully that makes it easier. And yeah, I'll explain that too. Hopefully it'll probably make more sense once I share my screen and like show you everything. But yeah, that's a big piece of this is you
Now,
will not have-
other than the Thursday or Tuesday meetings, if any of us and, talking just myself, at any given point, am I able to email you and say, hey, I need help with something? I need an
Absolutely.
explanation. I mean, like I said, I'm not in class.
Mhm.
You're the teacher. Can I say, hey, shoot you an email, say, hey, can you make time? I've got questions. I don't understand it. Or, is that okay with you? At any
Oh,
given-
absolutely. Yes, this is my job. So you do not ever hesitate to send me an email. Send me it at 5 a.m, midnight, any time of day. I will get back to you. Typically within 24 hours, it just depends on my work schedule, but I will
Right.
get back to you in 24 hours. And I can also, like I said earlier, one-on-one meetings. I'm more than happy to do that too. So whatever I can do to help, however I can help navigate this for any of you if you're not used to online courses. Yeah, I'm here to help.
Okay. Is there a book? I know
Yeah, I'll explain the book in a minute here. But yeah, there is an online book, but there isn't a book here.
600 pages.
Yeah, it's 563 pages or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. I don't think you have to read the book. That's not where I would spend my time in this course. It's just there as a supplemental material.
I even thought to myself, that's almost $60 to print off at the library.
Yeah, I know, it might be cheaper to buy a book, right? But all right, I'm gonna just finish introduction. So Justin, I see you're on.
Hey, how's it going? So I figure out this video.
No worries. Oh, there you go.
There we go. My name's Justin. This is my first college class going back. I started it right out of high school and I worked at Brembo. I worked maintenance there for 8 years. I recently switched roles. I'm doing electrical controls technician and going for my associates in electrical. And right before this class I was trying to get, I didn't realize I needed to download the app. So I got it on at like 5:59 and downloaded it. So we're all good to go now.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's pretty much it.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so looks like we've got Luke
Or
next.
we've got everybody in manufacturing maintenance field right here.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, my name is Luke. I've just graduated last year, so I'm just going to college immediately after. Right now I work in the restaurant industry, but I'm looking to get into mechanical engineering and electrical. So I'm taking this course to get an electrical certificate. So that's where I'm at now.
Great. Well, welcome, Luke. And then I'm not sure on the first name here, but I see someone with the last name Rose Brock. But it looks like your mic isn't working. So, oh, I see your face though. So hi. Okay. Yep. See, your mic doesn't work. Well, nice to meet you. All right. So we've got now Brayton.
Yeah, so I just graduated this past year as well. And I'm pursuing my lineman apprenticeship, but that was
Awesome.
full, so I had to do this. But it also counts towards the lineman apprenticeship, so that's where I'm headed.
Nice. The second choice I see, but the lineman program. I teach a lot of courses and for that program. So I think that's a pretty cool program for sure. So welcome. Dominic? All right, pass, Javier, and I apologize if I didn't say that correctly.
No, you're all right. It happens a lot. I graduated 2021 and I'm just taking this class to try and become an electrician just because I found the field very interesting to me.
Nice.
So I'm like
Welcome.
pretty new to this whole field. So yeah.
All right, nice. John?
Hello, Purdue graduate, going back for a different degree. I'm an electrical tech at a local adhesives production factory. And then I was also an aviation electrical tech in the Army for about 6 years. So
Oh, wow, cool. Well, welcome. Justin? A few more to get through. Um, Okay. I don't hear Justin, so.
Oh, I already went.
Oh, no,
wanna
you
go
already
again?
went. Sorry, Justin.
That's all right.
My order got all bounced around now. So if I miss anyone, let me know, but, or repeat you. Langston?
Hi, my name is Langston Williams. I graduated in 2020, so this is my second official year here. I'm working towards a degree in electrical engineering. I worked general construction last year to save money while I'm in school, so I have limited electrical experience, but yeah,
Welcome.
thank you.
Luke? I don't know if I already called on Luke, but.
Oh yeah, I just went a minute ago.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Nathan. There we go. I don't think I've called on a Nathan. Okay, I hear no Nathan, so maybe I already called him or. Okay, and then the last name there's. Anyone with last name Mast?
Yeah, my name's Noah.
Noah.
I just
I know.
graduated high school this year and I'm working full-time with Tech Electric and I'm trying to get licensed as an electrician.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, welcome, Noah. All right, so I'm just gonna really quick save all of you that are on this call. So for attendance reasons. Give me a moment. So I think that's everyone. Is there anyone that I missed before I move on? Or I guess it's I missed you and you don't want to talk. That's fine too. Okay, awesome. All right, just one moment while I save this attendance. Okay. So like I said, today I am going to, if I have time, I'm gonna talk a little bit about week 1, but I mainly wanted to go through Canvas and go through the syllabus. So we will start there. With that, I'm gonna share my screen. All right, so you should see my syllabus now. Let me know if you can't. Or if it needs to be zoomed in a bit, but I don't hear anyone say that they can't see it.
That's fine.
Okay, that's good. I was gonna say I can
Yeah.
do more if I need to. But okay, so we already talked about how I will be the professor or instructor for the Thursday portion, your electrical portion. I also will be your primary contact if there's any questions in terms of like technical difficulties related to Canvas or related to grading. Contact me. Kim primarily just deals with the math side of things. But I will say I try to touch on the math component in the electrical side of this course too. So, you know, if there's a particularly hard week in the math side and you are still a little unclear, that's okay if we can try to tie it into this course or this, you know, class as well. But yeah, so I guess just some course objectives, not going to read them right now since you can read it if you want on your own time. But this is probably the most important thing. So the way the grading works for this course is essentially it's at a points possible basis. So there's 303 points possible for this course. And whatever your total is divided by 303 will give you your grade for this course. So this is the grading scale. So for example, if you got 290 points divided by 303 points possible, that would be a 95.7. So that would be a 4 point. So that's how you're graded for this course. So in terms of like, if you want to know, gauge where you're in the course, you can kind of see how many points you've gotten so far, and that'll tell you, what your grade is at that time. But obviously you'll get more points the more assignments you do. So the math quizzes, so there's quizzes in Canvas, which I'll point out in a minute. There's I think 6 of them. Those are going to total up to 65 points. Electrical quizzes, 156 points. So that's the majority of half of your grade is solely on these electrical quizzes. So all of our weekly meetings from here on out are going to be focused on discussing the content in those electrical quizzes, which again, I'll point those out to you when I share my screen for Canvas. Amatrol modules, this is where probably students have the most struggle in terms of technical difficulties. So Amatrol is basically, because this course is all online, obviously with electrical courses, the hands-on component is still important. So Amatrol is basically a simulation. So you kind of have to read through some slides and do like simulations. And then at the end, you'll take a quiz. And that quiz portion is what's graded for Amatrol. So it's 70 points. There's 7 modules, which means each module is 10 points. And again, your grade is solely based on that quiz. But in order to take the quiz, you have to get through the simulation first. And the quiz is based off the simulation and everything you read. And I'll show that in a minute too. But for Amatrol 2, there's also a pre-quiz. Doesn't count towards your grade, but you have to take that in order to take the quiz. And I'll show that again in a minute here. And then just these 3 things are easy and you can probably get done in the first week. So the student success quiz, course requirements checklist, and programs of study by pathway. So again, these are the 6 components that make up that 303 points possible. And however many points you get out of 303 is going to show what grade you get in terms of this column here, the GPA. So I'm going to pause here. Are there any questions in terms of like how that's going to work? There might be more questions when I show Canvas in a minute, but so far everything seemed pretty straightforward.
Yes.
I got a question. My internet kind of broke up when you were talking about the Amatrol modules. What is required for the 10 points on that?
Yep, so Amatrol, when you click on the Amatrol link for each week, it's going to open up a pre-quiz. You have to take that pre-quiz. I don't care what grade you get on that. So if you want to if you just want to click through it, that's fine. And then after that, it'll lead you to like a simulation slash like reading module. You'll have to do that, and then it'll allow you to take the quiz, which is I think always 10 questions. And that quiz, whatever score you get on that quiz, which it'll tell you, is how many points you get for that module. So if you get an 8 out of 10, you get 8 out of 10 points. You get 8 points for that module. Then there's 7 of them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right. So just a couple other things to point out. I already talked about attendance. So again, these won't be mandatory from here on out. I'll always be on here though. So but typically if no one shows up in the first 15 minutes, I just assume no one has questions and I'll log off. But if you ever need any additional help or this time's not going to work for you, send me an email. And if you want to set up a meeting independently, we, one-on-one, we can do that too. Screen froze for a minute, sorry, but I think that's the main. Oh, here we go. So then this is also pretty helpful. So for one, this is a 7-week course. But just so there's the end date, October 17th. I would say, and I will send emails about this, make sure you have all your course content done by like the 15th, because that just ensures that if there's anything missing or any errors, like we can address them before the end of the course. So by October 15th, I would aim to have everything done. And again, after that deadline, everything would become a 0 if you haven't completed it. And yeah, so this is just the weekly schedule. So it just shows each week what the topic will be. So this week it's just electrical basics and Ohm's law, which we should have time to talk about that this week. So by Saturday, ideally you should aim to get all of week 1 content done. Again, you're not going to be penalized if there's no late grades, but definitely I would say try to stick to the schedule as much as possible, because I would say that that's probably when the biggest challenge for everyone having no late grades is a lot of people will save everything till the last week, and I would not advise that. For one, if there's ever any technical errors and it's a week or 2 weeks before the course ends, there's no guarantees that I can help fix your problem at that point. So definitely try to stick to the weekly schedule in Canvas as much as you can. And like I said, just every week touch base with me via either these calls or just send me an email so I know where you're at. I know it's online, but I try to make it as interactive as possible. So, but okay, with that, this syllabus is on Canvas, so you can access everything else. All the other sections that it goes into. There's a section on accessibility, advising, academic honesty policies. So definitely read the rest of that when you get a chance, but I won't go into that in too much detail. But okay, so I'm going to kind of switch directions now and go on to Canvas. So let me open up that. Okay. So I hope by now all of you have been able to log on and access Canvas. If you haven't, let me know. But okay, so when you log on, this is what your screen should look like. And they have this nice feature that allows it to be in student view. So I can kind of walk through it. And again, this should be exactly what you see on your end, basically. So we have our ELT 120. So that's the course you're in right now. And so you can see that all these tabs on the left side, home, assignments, modules, etc. If you click on those, it's going to bring you to that page essentially. And I know there's a lot going on here. Like there's just all these random links, and I know it's overwhelming. But how I would navigate this course is one, modules here. This is the page that you're probably going to want to stay on for the most part. So this breaks everything down into weeks. So general is just general information. So I have a tab here on Zoom info. So if you click on that, basically just says how to access this electrical Zoom. And if you hit the backspace, it'll just bring you back to modules. And then this textbook that I know some of you mentioned. So I think in the weeks it tells you to like read chapter 1 and do all this, but as one of you mentioned, this is 560 pages. So I really just think that this is just supplemental for this course, unless if you want to read it and want to, if you're really confused on a section, definitely read it. But, first ask me and hopefully I can help solve any or clear up anything. But I would say it's just supplemental. It's not a requirement to, sit down and read every single page through that. So the other important things in general, so the syllabus is here, so you should be able to open it if you click on that link. And then this getting started here just says a couple things about the course. So, read the syllabus, read chapter 1, which this is again where it's okay if you don't read chapter 1. But complete your unit 1 assignments, attend these weekly check-ins if needed. And then for this first week, definitely get these 3 done if you can. So that course requirements checklist, the programs of study by pathway, acknowledgement, and the student success quiz, which I will show you where they are at in a minute. But okay, so that again is the general information. After that, you'll see that everything is broken up into weeks. So week 1 electrical and week 1 math. So that's all of what you should essentially have gotten through or should get through by the end of this week. But if you haven't, it's okay. You know, you still have time to catch up. But as far as, I'm not going to touch too much on this week 1 content and everything, since that's Kim's. But if you have questions about everything in here, definitely ask her. But for those math, you know, we have those quizzes. So that 65, you go back to the syllabus, that 65, where are you?
Oh.
The 65 points here, that's what these are. So this one doesn't equal 65 points. This one is only 10 points, but you can see that each week there's one of those quizzes, and that's going to total, or should total 65. But as for the electrical side of things, so there's the electrical quizzes, which again, in these courses or in this weekly check-in, I will primarily be focusing on the content in that, solely because that's the majority of your grade. And then this is the Amatrol module, so basic electrical circuits. And if you click on this week 1 to-do list, it tells you that. So it tells you to do that basic electrical circuits, and it tells you to do the quiz. And both of them are linked in week 1. So really each week, essentially you should do your math quiz, your electrical quiz, and the Amatrol module. So you'll also notice in each of these weeks, there are these links to all of these different lectures. These are pretty short videos. Most of them, if you click on them, might open up a new browser like you can see here. They're about 10 minutes or so each video. These are incredibly helpful. Every single thing in the electrical quizzes come from these. So this is what I would recommend watching. So watching these and then taking that electrical quiz, or watching these, attending these weekly check-ins where I will go over this material in more detail, and then taking the quiz. But those are really important. And
So
definitely,
you're saying to watch all the links that you've posted in there, or
yes, for each week. So these are only, I mean, these are
Yeah.
only like 10 minutes a piece. So all in all, it's probably an hour and a half of content.
that's kind of what I've been doing with the math one too. It's just a lot to go through, but it is helpful. But I wanted to ask you, are there retakes on your quizzes or not?
Yeah, you know, I do like to have 2 attempts. Yep, so you get 2 attempts. So that is what I would recommend,
All right.
actually. And this is what I normally do, but you don't get 2 attempts on the Amatrol module. So that's important to note. So the Amatrol modules have that quiz that's, you know, 70 points. You don't get 2 attempts on that. I can't give, I've tried, there's not a way to allow that. But these electrical quizzes, which again, going back to the syllabus, is 156 points. You have 1 retake you can take on all of those. So what I would recommend is for each week, watch those weekly videos, take an attempt, and then if you get a ton wrong, or you know you don't understand why you got something wrong in this weekly check-in, I can focus on maybe the challenging questions. Obviously I can't give you the answer to them, but I can
Will it tell you what you got wrong?
Sorry, go ahead.
Will it tell you what you got wrong?
It should tell you, yeah, it should tell you. And if it doesn't, I should be able to look
Because
at it.
in the math quiz, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Does it
No.
tell you how many points you got?
Yeah, it tells
Yeah.
you like 7 out of 10 or whatever, but it don't tell you which ones are wrong.
Yeah, it probably won't, solely because if it might make it too easy if you know, like if you get 2 wrong, then you know exactly what 2 to redo. But I also recognize that if you take it and don't know what you got wrong, how are you supposed to do better? So and I guess if you attend these and say, I have no idea what I got, most of the time you know what problems you were stuck on, but if you don't, I can probably look it up and I can focus or tailor our weekly check-ins to that questions that are related to that concept. So, and I do that usually like before these weekly meetings. I'll look at like the quiz scores of everyone's quiz scores and see like if a lot of people are getting the same question wrong, I know to focus on that area in the weekly calls.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
You'll be
But yeah, I
hearing
would
from
say
me.
too that like a lot of people just take these and that's enough, and they don't even attend these weekly meetings with me, because this might be enough information for you to take that quiz, do well, and succeed in this course. And those Amatrol modules, all of the information that relates to the quiz that you take is going to be in that simulation. So all of these lecture videos relate to this quiz. And then this Amatrol is kind of separate. So when you click on the link here, it's going to open up and look like this. So like I talked about earlier, there's a pre-quiz, a learning simulator material, and then a quiz. That quiz is what counts towards your grade, but you can't click on this or it's going to tell you you must launch content before, oh no, you must launch content before taking it. So you have to do that pre-quiz. So you can just like, if you want to try, that's fine. But a lot of times the questions don't relate to, you know, the quiz questions, but just for simplicity, it's going to do it now. So now it'll let me launch the material. So you click to launch anyway, and you can see it's loading here. So some people get stuck on this and this launch tutorial button. If you click on this, it's going to show you a tutorial to how to use Amatrol. So like this is just telling you like whatever, like how to navigate everything. But you don't have to click on that every time because it's just going to bring you back to that tutorial. But so when you launch every Amatrol module, you'll see that there's like sections here. And you can just kind of click on the first one, objective 1, and just start. So this one has 80. Ooh, this one has 82 pages, but you know, some of them, like some of the pages are quick. Like this page is just this little blurb right here. And you know, you can hear someone talking, but if you want to mute that, that's fine. And then, like I said, you know, some of these are going to be interactive. So like this, click on the graphic to toggle between the fluctuations in voltage and fluctuations in current to see how each affects the bulb. So you can see that when I move my cursor here. So it's kind of cool. Like I know this is an online course, but at least it's somewhat interactive in that sense. And it'll give you this warning if you don't like explore all of the functions, but that's, you can just hit okay if you're fine. But yeah, so once you click through all of that, it'll then let you take the quiz, which this quiz, all of the questions on this quiz are going to relate to that mod, you know, that simulation that I was just opening. So you can see here that this one's 12 questions. So I guess they're not all 10, but you just can click your answer. I don't know if that's right. I'm just clicking it. And then you know, hit next. You can flag them if you're unsure, and that way you know which ones to go back to. And then you can go to overview. It'll show you if you didn't answer any, and then you can just hit submit. And when you hit submit, it'll tell you how many points you got. So I got 0 out of 12, but and
We know that you weren't trying.
Oh, sorry, what?
We know you weren't trying, so
Yeah, hopefully if I tried, I'd do a little better than that. But and this, I know this is out of 12, but like I said, each quiz is out of 10. So like, let's just say, you know, it's going to give you a score out of 12, and this is going to say like 80%. That would just be an 8 out of 10, if that makes sense. So again, each one's 10 points, regardless of how many questions are on that Amatrol quiz.
all right, gotcha.
So any questions on Amatrol? There are 7. So back to the syllabus, there are 7 modules, each one's 10 points. It's just that quiz. And to understand the content that quiz is going to be over is going to be based off that simulation that I was just clicking through.
It makes me feel a lot better.
Good, I'm glad that was the hope.
I'm so glad it's not 156 for the math portion of it because I'm already in touch with the teacher on that. I never had to take algebra at all in high school, not one bit.
So if this makes you feel better, and that's a very common thing I hear is a lot of people are in this class because they like electricity and the electrical side of things, and then they have this huge math component. But one, unfortunately, with STEM, math's involved everywhere. But with this course, I would say that a lot of the math concepts aren't like super in depth, and they don't go into like algebra that much. So like, for example, like week 1 is looking at you know, rounding and square roots and that type, like rounding and stuff. So some of that you might have you know, understanding of, and like scientific notation and like using the metric unit conversion. So that's something that even if you don't like math, you might still be comfortable in. So like, you know, unit conversions, like converting between feet and
Yeah,
inches.
It does help that she goes over the quizzes with us. So, I mean, that is very important because I'm on the same page as him. Like this math, you know, I've been in the manufacturing field forever.
For sure.
We don't use it. I mean, we do, but not like that.
Totally understand. Yeah, Kim's great. She definitely is great at explaining the math portion of things. So, and I know she's very understanding too, that if you're really struggling on something, I
have my kids helping me.
she's more than happy to meet with you. And if you want a different perspective, if like maybe the way she's explaining it doesn't make sense, I can try from my end too. I've taken a lot of math in my years, so it's one of my favorite subjects, but I know that's not normally a common opinion. But okay, so yeah, that's pretty much how this course is going to run. So, you know, again, you've got your quiz each week, and if I click on this, you can see that you've got 2 attempts. It's going to be pretty similar to the Amatrol, and then you can just click on each and it'll give you that, which that is the correct answer for that one. So if you were paying attention, there's an answer for you.
Yay.
But all right, and so I mentioned those 3, first of all, another thing, if you go to this assignments tab, there's like a million, it just shows everything, this is a confusing tab to click on. So that's why I would just stay to this module tab that has it broken down by weeks. But
I got a question as far as when it says attempts, can you like log out? Like let's say you're in the middle of a test, but something happens, you know, something happens. Is that considered an attempt or?
You know, I don't know. Sometimes I'm pretty like, if I can reset it though, I will. Like Amatrol is really weird. Sometimes it'll like log you out randomly, and Amatrol you definitely don't have to do in one sitting, like in terms of the learning material. Like if you want to get halfway through it and then, you know, take the quiz the next day, that's fine.
I mean, I get submitting, you know, you hit submit, you're submitted it. That's one attempt.
Yeah, but for the quiz, like if you start the quiz, it might make you finish it. But if it ever, like if your computer shuts down or something weird happens, I can always give you another attempt on it.
Okay.
If it's a technical issue.
4 kids is a technical issue.
That's fair enough. But okay, so
You have 4 kids?
That's right.
Wow.
I will say if you go to assignments, you'll see that the student success quiz, the course requirements, and that programs of pathway are right there. So if you want to just get, you know, some points done with quickly, you can click on those, and there you don't have to do any prior studying. They're pretty straightforward. It makes you acknowledge that you read the course syllabus and everything. So those 3 are easy points that are basically given if you do those 3. And then this grading tab just shows you everything that's counted towards your grade. So this is really helpful because on your end, you should see your score and what, you know, your score that you got and how many points it was. And then you can see that I took that 1 quiz. So that's why it says 0 here. And then, you know, it'll show you your total, which I think hopefully will show you it, like whatever your total is, will be out of 303. I don't know why it says 10 here, but it should give you it I'll have to look into it if it doesn't, but it should give you a total out of, and it looks like it was when I was seeing everyone else's grade. You should get a total that's out of, you know, adding up all your points till you eventually get to 303, but you won't get to 303 unless you get a perfect score and everything. But this will at least tell you how you're doing. And if you're ever confused on like, if you like halfway through, if you want to gauge like how you're doing, just let me know and I can like help you with that. But yeah. And if you added up all of these, this would give you 301 because those two small quizzes that I mentioned to do at the beginning, you know, the one question ones, this student success and program, they're not shown here, but if you added up all these, it's 301, but the total is out of 303. So just note that, but yeah. So with that, I have 8 minutes and I'll try to skim over some material for week 1. But before I do that, are there any questions or concerns on any of this? Hopefully this helped in terms of how to navigate through Canvas. And
It definitely did with the modules, because I had no idea how to work that. Like
okay, good. Well, I'm glad that helped. And yeah, you can also, if you click on this arrow, it'll like condense everything, which is kind of nice. Like if you want just to, I wonder if it'll save, but like if you go through and condense everything, might be nice. So then you just don't have like you don't feel overwhelmed. I felt overwhelmed looking at it all. So
oh, I'm overwhelmed.
but yeah, so that makes it a little easier like that. And then you can just click on the week we're in. But that's why it's helpful to like definitely try to do all of the week 1 content. So all of this content, since we're in the first week, I try to have week 1 math and electrical done by Sunday and then, you know, start on week 2, because if you get really behind, it's going to be hard to catch up. But okay, so any other questions? No? That is good. Well, hopefully that means it's going to be easy from here on out. But okay, so
What was that? Your dog?
Good looking puppers.
oh, those are my dogs. Yeah, that's Comet and Pluto, my 2 dogs. All right, so this first week, I would say it's pretty simple. You know, there's not too many terms that come into play here, but basically we just, and hopefully you guys can see this. Okay, I'm going to be talking fast today because we have 7 minutes as compared to normally we have an hour to discuss everything, but so just kind of in basic what electricity is. So it's essentially a form of energy resulting from the existence of charged particles. However, if you look up the actual definition, I don't think a form of energy is the correct way to put it. It's essentially a secondary form of energy. But again, that's resulting from the existence of charged particles such as electrons or protons. So, and this could be either statistically or as an accumulation of charge or dynamically as a current. So it's either static electricity or current electricity are the 2 types.
I missed, are these slides something that we can pull up?
Nope, these aren't, but I will send these to you every week. So I can
Okay,
send these
perfect.
to you. So that way you don't have to take notes on everything. It helps. But yeah, for the most part, I will say for this electrical side of things, a lot of it's doing equations and calculations. So that's the majority of what the quiz is asking. But, you know, in simple terms, electricity is basically the movement of electrons. So in terms of what you need to know for this course, ELT 120 is one of the first electrical courses. You know, that's pretty much the bulk of, you know, in terms of just like the wording of it. Electricity is just a movement of electrons, and you'll hear that come up a lot. But so the biggest thing that we talk about throughout this course are circuits. That's, you know, as the weeks progress, it gets increasingly more complicated. If you've, you know, a lot of you have an electrical background, you've probably seen a circuit before. This is a pretty simple circuit. For I think it's week 4 and 5, we get into combination circuits, and it definitely gets really in depth. So making sure that you're understanding circuits this week is important. And making sure you understand like the foundation of, you know, what we're talking about this week is really important for weeks to come. But just to kind of point out like the most important and critical elements of a circuit. So the circuit essentially here, We have our battery, which the battery is just the source of energy, which provides a push, which is a voltage of energy to get the current flowing. So basically a circuit is just a closed path. So a closed path here, but this is open right now because of the switch. So a closed path consisting of circuit components in which electrons from a voltage or current source flow, which makes sense if we go back to the actual definition, right? Because it's the movement of electrons. So that's what a circuit is. So again, our battery here, just that source of energy. The light bulb is called the load of the circuit, and the tenet of the light bulb, I always think of like a circuit as if you've ever done in like elementary school, sometimes they have you do that lab where like you're connecting all the copper wire to like a battery, and there's like a light bulb somewhere along that wire line, and when you touch the both ends of the wire to both ends of the battery, all of a sudden that light bulb lights, and then when you take it off, when you take one side of the wire off the battery, that light bulb stops lighting. That's essentially what a circuit is. So, and that's what a switch does. So when a switch is closed, the electrons can freely flow through all the way through the circuit. So that's going to light the light bulb or light whatever load you have in the circuit. When that switch is open, like it is denoted in this picture on the right, that means that our electrons are not going to be able to flow through there. So that's the difference between an open and a closed switch. So again, this is how you control, when electricity flows. So when it is open, it's closed, or when it opens, that electricity cannot flow, but when it is closed, that electricity flows, because we need a complete closed loop. So I always think of it as closed equals flows, because it's easy to remember. But yeah, so that's the basics of what a circuit is. And I recognize I only have 2 more minutes, but I'm going to try to get through these slides. So if I'm a little over, feel free to, if you have to log off, this will be recorded. So don't worry, but if you want to stay on, of course, stay on too. But yeah, but so so basically for this week, the other important thing is we learned 3 major terms, which you've probably heard of: voltage, current, and resistance. We just talked about voltage a little bit, but I'm going to kind of talk about all 3 of these terms in a little bit more depth. So voltage is denoted as V. So anytime in the quizzes, they might just say 80 V, and you just should assume that that's voltage. So it might not say the voltage is 80. It might just say you have a circuit with 80 V, and just, V is voltage, just the denotation for that. So again, voltage is the push or pressure moving electrons. And it's really just how much potential energy exists to move the electrons from one specific point to another, which makes sense because we know, the capabilities of a smaller battery versus a larger battery, right? So that's what it means when it's talking about potential energy. It depends on how big that battery is. So again, it's either in the quizzes going to look like 80 V or 80 volts. So the other important term is current. So current is just the speed your electrons are going through your wire. And when I'm talking about a wire, I'm talking about this circuit. It's made up of copper, right, or something that those electrons can flow through. But so something that you might hear is like, how many amps do you have? So amps is just the unit for current, similarly to like how inches is the unit for length, right? So amps or coulombs per second is the unit for current. And this is just the quantity of electricity carried in 1 second by a current of 1 amp. This is what coulombs per second means, the sentence here, if you're wondering why I wrote that. And then the only other important thing to know about current is that, it can be potentially dangerous, right, if we have like surges of current. So, and as weeks progress, we'll talk about that in more detail. But this first week is pretty generic. So the next and final term that is important for this week to know is resistance. So again, going back to this, these 3 terms are the 3 important terms for this week. But resistance is basically just a measure of the opposition to current flow in an electrical circuit. And there are multiple factors that can be impacted by resistance. So it's going to depend on the length of your conductor, the material of your conductor, the diameter of your conductor, how, like a circle, like the diameter is the length across. and the load. So the one thing that resistance isn't impacted by is the strength of the power. That doesn't have any impact on how much resistance you have. But okay, and then I liked this chart that just kind of showed the difference of resistance depending on the factor, and it kind of shows like what they all mean in more depth. So like length, obviously longer is going to have greater resistance. Material, if you have copper wire versus iron wire, their material, I guess I should say iron wire. But yeah, so those are basically the three terms. And the reason that those three terms are important is because in this week we were introduced to Ohm's law, which this equation, I know you hate math, you don't want to see an equation, but this equation is going to come up every single week and is the basis of this whole class. So that equation, V equals I times R, is essentially just voltage equals the current times the resistance. So the current, it's just denoted as I in these equations because I guess something already took up C. So current gets I. But so that's important to know. So for these equations, so definitely write that down if you might forget that the I equals current. But again, so the reason this equation is important is it is essentially saying that if we are given two of the three parameters here, we can solve for the third one, right? Because if we have two of these, we can solve for whatever we don't know. So that's basically what majority of the questions in the quiz are going to ask you to do. Use this equation and solve for the unknown. And that's really what this whole class is going to be, is using electrical equations and using principles and ideas that you learn to solve for what you don't know. I did want to point out that this equation can also be written in terms of I and R. So if, and this right now is voltage equals, current times resistance, but if you need to solve for current, it would be voltage times resistance. And then resistance equals voltage divided by current. So, and this is like where the math kind of comes into play. You don't have to know this, but just if you're wondering, all three of these equations are the same thing. All it's doing is algebra, which is just putting one variable to the other side. And so you can isolate one and, solve for it. But you don't have to know that. You can just, if you want to just write down these three equations here and know that whatever you're trying to solve for, that's the equation for it. That's fine. But I did want to point out, so in this situation here, so now we know that voltage, current, resistance all have, a relationship with each other. And if you look at this equation, if you increase your voltage, that means both your current and resistance also have increased, right? Because they're all related. Because for example, let's say your voltage, or I guess the way to put that is like, since they're I and R multiplied by each other to get to voltage, they're all directly related to each other. So an increase in your current is going to make an increase in voltage. So for example, let's say we had a resistance of 10 and a current of 5 amps. So a resistance of 10 ohms. Ohms is a unit for resistance, and an amperage of 5. That would mean we have 50 volts, right? Because 5 times 10. But if we increase that current and made it 20, so we had 20 times 10, that would be 200 volts. So that just is saying, and I'll do problems in a minute, just 3 problems on that. But all that means is that when you increase your current, you're going to increase your voltage in turn because they're directly related to each other. And you can show that by doing a math problem. But does that make sense so far? Are there, I guess I know I'm talking fast. Are there any questions so far on anything that I'm going over? I promise in weeks to come, I'll talk slower, but hopefully that makes sense. But okay, so I did want to, this isn't in those videos that you're going to be watching for like the weekly lecture videos, this chart, but I think it's super helpful. So I always put it in here, especially because power doesn't come up in week 1, but it comes up in week 2. But basically what this chart is it shows you what equation to use depending on what you're trying to solve for. So for example, if you need to solve for voltage, this orange one, and you have current and resistance, you know to use that equation, V equals I times R. You need to solve for amperage and you're given voltage and resistance, you know it's I equals V divided by R, which are the same three equations I wrote here. But the reason this chart is helpful is because next week, power is this fourth term that comes into play. So you're gonna have to use, you know, R equals P divided by I squared to solve for resistance. So I just think this equation is helpful because, or this chart is helpful to have, and I'll send you all of this, the slides so you can have this. But when you're taking the quiz, you know, they're gonna ask questions like this. What is the current in a circuit with 15 volts and 3 ohms of resistance? Well, in this, you know, okay, I'm given current, or I'm trying to solve for current. I'm given voltage and I'm given resistance. You can look at this and know, okay, well, I'm given current, or I keep saying that, I'm trying to find current, right? And I'm given voltage and resistance. So then you know the equation is just I equals V over R, and you can solve it as simple as that. So that's why I think it's helpful to have this chart. So again, these middle ones are what you're trying to solve for, and they V equals this, equals this, equals this, I equals this, equals this, equals this. And whatever equation you're going to use here just depends on what two variables you're given. And then up in the corners here, it shows the units for each of the 4 terms, which is important because that's also might be a question you get. It might say like, what are the units for current or resistance? And we know what they are there. But okay, so just to do some math problems here, it's pretty simple math, but we're going to use Ohm's law, this equation, and this equation here is the same one that's written here, but it's just expressed in multiple different ways. So for this first one here, I know I just talked about it, but so what is the current? So we're trying to solve current in a circuit with
So it's
15
like
volts.
basic division, but you're dividing volt and.
Yep.
ohms.
Yeah, basic division. So in a circuit with 15 volts and 3 ohms, I equals V over R. I got the equation here. I equals V over R. V divided by R, 15 divided by 3 is 5 amps. So it is as simple as that.
What is the current? The current is I with volts and 3 ohms. Okay, this makes perfect sense.
Does that make sense?
You're gonna send us some of this stuff then every week, or that you're teaching on, or
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you there. Can you
are
stop?
you going to send us the
Yeah,
this
so
stuff right here, just so I don't have to write everything down? I mean, I've got a book ordered that's got the ohms law in it and
so
all
you
that,
want me
but
to send you? Yeah, I can send you this before the course. Like would that be helpful? If I sent you this before
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry for this week. It's just
No, it's fine.
just
You're
because
fine.
Before we get to the class, we're trying to, you know.
for sure. Yep, I will send this. I'll send this one today, and I'll send next week's on Monday. So you
But it'd still be nice to go over everything.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah,
But does this, everyone's clear on this problem and are all of how it worked? Are there any questions for this one?
sense.
I think there's just a few of us here anymore now, isn't there?
I know everybody left.
We got a couple, but okay, so we'll do 2 more examples. And yeah, I apologize again. I know I'm talking fast and going over the time, so but I want to make sure you get all the material. But okay, so another type of question. So this one states, what is the voltage in a circuit with a speed of 10 amps and a resistance of 6 ohms? So this is an example of where they didn't say current, but you should assume that this is current because it's amps, and we know that amps is a unit for current. So I'm going to underline what we know. We know the current, and we know the resistance, right? It's ohms, and we have to find the voltage. So if we go back to our chart, we look at V, that's what we're trying to solve for. And we're given resistance and we're given current. So we know the equation is V equals I times R. And that's exactly what I did, right? R times I is just 10, or, you know, I reversed it here, but 6 is the resistance. 10 is the current. And so that is how you get 60 volts. So it was the same problem essentially as this one, but you know, we're solving for different variables, we're given different numbers and different. Pause for a minute in case any of you are writing, but any questions on that? It was basically the same concept.
I just, I mean, you know, I guess when you said, you know, we should know that voltage is the amps, so that amps is what's actually pushing the voltage. So you have to like kind of know that, but I mean, I might have gotten hung up on that for a second.
No, yeah.
I'm just saying, I don't,
The amps is current. So like I mentioned earlier, all of these parameters, voltage, resistance, and current have units, similar to how length has units of inches or weight has unit of pounds. Voltage has units of volts. Current has units of amps always. So you're never going to have a voltage that gives you 8 amps, right? A voltage is always in volts. Current is always in amps or coulombs per second, it's called. And resistance is always in ohms.
I got you. Okay.
In these problems, like in this one, we know that we are given current, not because it tells us in the problem, but because it tells us that we have amps. They're always going to tell you, anytime they give you a number, they're going to tell you a unit. Like they're never going to just say 10. They always have to give you a unit, right? Because I mean, if you were given, I have a length of 12, you don't know what the dimensions are of that, right? I mean, you can't. So they're always going to have something after the number that tells you what it is, if that makes sense. So if you just remember that current is amps, voltage is volts, and resistance is ohms, that should help you know what you're given and what you need to find. Does that make sense? Hopefully that helps. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So just one last example. Basically the same concept here. So in this example, we have 80 volts. So if we see volts, we know it's voltage, right? And 40 amps, we see amps, we know that's current. So, or I, because it's denoted I in all the equations. So we're given V, we're given I, and we want to know the resistance. So we look on this R, we're given V, we're given I, we know that we divide them. So V 80 divided by 40 is 2 ohms. And I will say just be mindful of what's like what's in the top, you know, the numerator versus what's in the denominator, because you can't do R equals I divided by V. You have to do V divided by I, or it'll give you an incorrect answer. And in this, I don't know if there's any quiz questions like this. I don't think there are, but you could have a decimal. So in all these 3 examples I did, it always was, you know, a whole number, but sometimes it might be like 5.2. And either in the quiz, it might have that decimal point, or it just might round, but just be mindful of that you can have decimals. But okay, so that's all I have for this week. So again, if you haven't taken that quiz 1, you could give an attempt now, see how you do, and then either watch those lectures or send me an email if you have any other questions. The majority of the questions on that quiz are going to be related to Ohm's law. So using this equation or using this chart and doing similar problems to this. It's also going to, you know, touch on what the different dimensions are for voltage, current, resistance, which we just talked about being, you know, ohms, volts, and amps.
I think it might be a little bit easier to take the quizzes once we get it, like stuff like
once you get this done. Okay, yeah. I'll send this out tonight then, so you have this PowerPoint to reference back when you're making sure you understand everything, or to reference as you're doing the
yeah, so like maybe send these out in the beginning of the weeks.
Yep, I will send on Monday. I'll send out week 2, so you'll have it for our Thursday.
That would be perfect.
Yeah, that's really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then for this time, since this week's a little different, I'll just send this one out right now. But going forward, every Monday, I'll send an email with the PowerPoint. Yeah, so that is all I had.
Thank you.
Like I said, I'll send this right now so I don't forget. But other than that, feel free to head on out, or if there's any last minute questions, I can stay on. But thank you all for joining on today, and hopefully I'll see you next week if you need help.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Have a good
Have a
week.
good night.
Thanks, you too.